Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is your t-shirted historian, and welcome to another week in Geek. All right, been an interesting week. Obviously, we had an announcement from Disney that is hitting everybody's radar, and we'll probably say a few things about that. I was very pleased that we have our special guest today, Comix Division. It's pretty cool. And if I'd known he was as big of a game nerd as he is, I would have had him on a long time ago, or at least I would have sure tried. But it's always pleasant, when you find out that somebody else is in your sphere of hobbies. And speaking of that, it's funny how it's come back up again about the whole tourists versus, the dedicated fan base. As I like to say now, that the real fans of mainstream geekery, whether it's collectible stuff, movies, games, whatever, we kind of tend to be not the mainstream purchasers. It's like if Hasbro is the mainstream, Walmart brand, Dungeons and Dragons and whatever, that's what everybody else is buying, whatever everybody else is playing. We're the weirdos who are the ones who are playing things like Worlds Without Number or something from post-mort.com, that kind of thing. And it goes the same thing with the comics too. Most of us probably aren't buying very much Marvel or DC right now. But we are buying stuff like ISOM and other kind of off-the-shelf titles that you can only get either through Kickstarters or privately. There's some new ones by Mike Barron I'm looking at. And it's kind of interesting. I think it's this latest debacle with Sweet Baby Inc. has kind of highlighted a lot of the divide, and it has brought it up now to where the common people are starting to see the divide, because finally it's starting to hit them. Hey, guess what? All this, negative pushback that we're getting from all these big people, in Hollywood and in games media and comics media and everything else, where if we don't like their products, there's something wrong with us, that we're ists, we're phobes, we're whatever. There's pushback against that. That stuff's not working anymore. They've used up those arguments. The fear isn't really there anymore because, we're just simply choosing not to purchase their stuff. How can they get upset about that? We're literally doing what we should have been doing all along, what we have been doing all along, and, voting with our wallets as to what we want to see. And at this point, I think they're scared. I think they're running. But never forget, though, that an animal's never more dangerous than when they're trapped and they think they're in a corner. So I don't know how much worse this stuff is going to get. But we just got to keep up the pressure, Don't buy the stuff that they're selling. Don't push their agendas. Don't push their medium. They desperately need to have this Gamergate 2.0 stuff be a thing. It's not. There is no Gamergate 2.0. It's just simply everyone else is finally waking up and realizing, hey, guess what? We don't like this crap either. And we're tired of it. We're sick of it. We want to see some changes. So, keep voting with your wallets. All right, let's bring our guests on, starting with the legendary Grim Jim.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I am okay. I just hit exactly 7,000 subs on my YouTube channel.
And here I am still struggling to get one, but congratulations, man.
Thank you. I owe it all to my fellow Crips.
And thanks for shouting me out the other day, too. I appreciate that.
If you recall them.
Yep. Mr. Ironcaster.
I can't say I hit 7,000 or anything, but I just recently this past week hit 666 in part thanks to Grim.
Ooh.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. And Ironcaster, I owe you a debt of gratitude for our special guest today, Comix Division.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're doing good, man. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
All right.
Well, I mean, it was Nick Weiser who
Great.
said I should reach out and get in, try to get you on.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool.
It's cool. And you got some G.I. Joe Classified on the wall behind you there.
I do.
What do you got? What do you got?
Oh, got a lot. From Crimson Guard, Firefly. Let's see, who else do I have? I got
I have a
Viper.
Firefly. Yeah, I had to do it for
Your
Viper.
Blood. I got the twins.
I do got the twins.
Shadow.
A couple of.
Yeah. Got quite a few. Yeah.
Cool. Have you heard of the Valaverse Action Force stuff yet?
The Valaverse Action Force, is that basically the British G.I. Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am. Yeah, I'm aware of them.
Oh, well, I picked this up from them. This was their Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Sergeant Slammer over here.
Is he Sergeant Slammer? Well,
Yeah.
He's
still-
Sergeant Slammer. Yeah.
well, I like these because they have the old file cards on them still.
It was during that whole time they changed Ninja Turtles to Hero Turtles. So
Yeah, the sculpt is a lot different from the Hasbro US one, and of course the accessories are different and everything else. But
Is the sculpt actually better?
it's different. I don't necessarily know it's better. I think I like the features on the face as they're defined on the Hasbro one. Whatever they're using for the plastics for the Action Force seems to be a different grade. It's not as malleable, so it's a little bit more stiff, which kind of worries me that, in about 20 or so years, if it's not going to become brittle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that they've been having some people have been complaining about some of the sculpts with the latest round of Hasbro ones. I want to say specifically with Falcon that they were kind of some people were complaining about the face.
Well, this one kind of complements my original.
Yeah.
These
But
poor
yeah,
guys
I
are
really-
getting old.
I really like them, man. There's like a line that's come out. Unfortunately, with the way my job situation is, I don't have the extra cash, to buy the classified stuff. But there's like a bunch of that have come out recently. They look pretty fucking awesome, like Rock and Roll and some of the more classic Joes that haven't come out till recent. So
I splurged recently and bought a whole bunch, but I'm backing down now.
yeah. Well, also, I mean, I have like a closet full too of like that I bought and that are not on the wall. So because the thing I don't like about it is that they did the closed box, right, rather than the blister packs like with these.
Mhm.
And it's like
that in part was because Hasbro's going a lot into the ESG friendly packaging. Like
mhm.
like if you look at some of those boxes, they were saying it's plastic free packaging. Like they had a whole ad campaign about it for a time.
Yeah.
I don't like blister packs for sure.
Well, I like the fact that you can actually see the figures. I mean, that's the thing I like about those, right? Before they went to the all cardboard.
I like the windows.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like the windowed ones, but the all cardboard ones. I got a barbecue, and it ended up having two right hands.
Wow.
Yeah,
made by
I like
AI.
one. That's useful.
So he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, I can't sell him either. I mean, it's like, what am I going to do with him? Nobody's going to want to buy a
collector's item, two right hands. Like those, penny stamps that got misprinted. Yeah, just got to hold on to it for 50
Guys.
years.
What happened to barbecue? He had kind of a birth defect. We don't talk about it. He can still use the fire axe in that other hand. Don't worry.
He just holds it backwards, like he's doing the cool grip.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know your name's Comix Division, but I know that you're a pop culture guy, kind of like us.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd start us off this week with something that was suitably on topic and funny. And this comes from our dear friend, the Echo Chamberlain.
I love that dude. It's pretty funny. It's such a
love
great
that
play
guy.
on words.
I love that guy too. Yeah,
Yeah.
His stuff is hilarious.
Yeah, he does good content.
He does. Okay. All right. I'm having a few problems here on my end, but here we go.
Pull the switch.
June in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh yeah, this.
A threat will rise. Mysterious rivals will search high and low for the most elusive thing in the world of the Acolyte. Something so rarely seen, most believe it has ceased to exist. A white male character.
Yeah.
Some say on-screen white males are a myth, a relic of a bygone age. But there are rumors that the peace of the High Republic will be disturbed. To ward off the threat of a single white male appearing in the Acolyte trailer, enemies will unite, alliances will form. On-screen diversity will be pushed to new limits.
Oh no.
Disney Plus and Leslie Headland will strip Star Wars of any magic or originality in a quest to purge the galaxy of the danger of on-screen white males and cram the trailer with nothing but boring-ass bitches and benign, wimpy dudes in a show that is so diverse, it is effectively Order 66 for Caucasians.
Well, the funny thing about that too, somebody got mad that I pointed out that the room full of Padawans was like majority, 80% female.
Yeah.
And someone got mad. It's like, well, if you're throwing demographics around, because I said that in reality it should be more like 60% male, 40% female. And they're like, well, if you're using demographics, the majority of the people on the planet are female, 60% male, female, and 40% male. It's like, dude, that's not the point. Okay.
It's hardly the point.
Yeah. It's most people who pick those type of roles, like law enforcement, first responders, military, whatever, 60%. And I'm totally making up the number. On average, I would say 60% is going to be male, 40% female.
The Jedi recruiters had a female goal they're going for that year.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much.
Everyone knows midichlorians are stored in the ovaries.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's pretty funny because my video, I was pretty tame with what I was pointing out, and they're talking about, I can't believe how insulting you're being to this. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, buddy, it's like, that's not even the worst of it. Okay.
Nope.
I could be far more offensive. It's like not even offensive. I mean, just because all I'm doing is I'm just mocking the video. And that's really it. And I felt like I was pretty light on the mockery. I could have dialed it up to 10. I think maybe it was like at a 4.
Wait till the show comes out.
Yeah.
The mockery will hit
it's funny. It's like, it's pretty apparent that you don't like Star Wars. I was like, I said that in the fucking video, dude.
Yeah.
I literally said, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. And it started with George Lucas.
Yeah. That was a crusher, man, the other day when he pretty much told everybody, he's like, no, man, I back the current regime. Oh, okay.
I'll be honest with you. I don't fucking care what he thinks. It's his time is done. He sold to Disney. He can support it all he wants. I'm totally fine with that because the more stupid stuff that Disney does, the quicker it's gonna fucking burn to the ground. And even if Nelson Peltz doesn't get in, I would say it's a win-win either way. If Nelson Peltz gets in, maybe you will see some change. No clue. If he doesn't, odds are they're gonna stay the course and they're just gonna continue to mess stuff up and lose money. It's like I'm totally fine with them going and producing all this woke garbage because all they're doing is piling more money onto the giant bonfire that is their destruction at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of waiting for the inevitable stock price crash after Peltz gets banded off. Because every time Nelson Peltz came forward and was saying something about wanting to try to get on the board or wanting to, how to make changes or whatever, the price started going up and up as a result.
Yeah,
he was having a direct response to that. And
then Disney starts circling the wagons, and it's like I said, either which way, it's fine.
I mean, that's the thing I'm always telling people too. It's like we don't get mad about this stuff because we hate it. People are like, oh, you guys hate it. And I'm like, no, we love Star Wars. That's why we're mad because of the direction it's going in.
Right. I mean, for me, it's like I've hit the point of apathy. I really don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the Acolyte it's Star Wars now. This is what Star Wars is. All right. And it's obviously it's not made for me anymore. That's fine. I've come to terms with that. And you see the people like on Twitter going on blah blah blah. I was like, dude, you can fucking keep it. I don't care anymore. Okay. It's like, yeah, I will grift off of their misery and their suffering and their failure. 100% I will do that because that's all it's good for at this point. It is our own entertainment. Us creating commentary around it. I legit don't give a shit anymore.
It's just content at this point.
It's, I mean, and that's the thing. Like we've moved to we've gone one step removed now to where the mockery is the entertainment. I'm looking forward to whatever Mahler's going to do about this. I'm looking forward to Gary's next video. I'm looking forward to the Friday Night Tights after this thing drops.
Oh God. Yeah. The latest Echo Chamberlain videos on it. They're going to be hilarious. But,
oh my God! By the way, did you guys look at the comment section on that trailer?
No.
It's pretty funny, and the fact that it got massively ratioed as well is funny. But yeah, it's funny because there's like a lot of stuff making fun of Leslie Headland, like close your eyes.
Oh, what do you see?
Basically, Harvey Weinstein to Leslie Headland. I mean, it's brutal, dude. It is absolutely brutal. And that's like the one things I brought up too is the fact that, brought to you by Leslie Headland, the former Harvey Weinstein personal assistant.
Oh God,
who basically knew what was going on. I mean, you can't be his personal assistant and not know what the fuck he's doing. I mean, come on.
What do you see?
I like that the fight sequence looked like slowed down Steven Seagal with force powers.
Oh,
fat Steven Seagal.
No, the real one.
Well, no, I mean the real fat Steven Seagal, not
okay.
Fat Steven Seagal.
Well, fat Steven, yeah.
The Acolyte.
About power and who's allowed to use it. Also, Leslie, I use my power to find girls for Harvey.
Oh. Oh, that was harsh.
That is. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, allegedly.
Oh God! 7 hours ago, 420K dislikes to 170K likes.
Yep.
Close your eyes. I can't.
Not as bad as the Ghostbusters 2016 thumb down, but it's pretty bad.
Someone's killing Jedi. It's Disney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Close your eyes. What do you see? A franchise going down in flames.
Fire. Much like this franchise.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to make another Ghostbusters anyway after this one. This one's not doing too good.
No.
I heard it's not good. But
This is kind of the issue. I mean, I liked Afterlife, and I honestly felt they should have stopped there. I would have been fine if they didn't make another one again. And especially after seeing this one, oh God, it just was so mediocre.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, "I don't care what they tell you in school. The Acolyte was black." God.
Yeah.
Mediocre is pretty good these days, though.
Isn't that sad?
That's the horrible thing.
Yeah, I think it might have been healthier though if instead of going off and doing another movie, they just kind of let it go. Just go do comics with it, and like kind of here's a cast. Go tell some comics for them. They're not going to try to spend a ton of money on it, and you might get some kind of halfway decent things out of it. I think comics might have been the more natural way to go.
Well, I think part of it too, Ivan Reichman and I'm totally blanking on Egon's real name, the actor. They were the heart and soul behind Ghostbusters. Yeah, Harold Ramis. Thank you. Without them, both of them, have passed away. And I know that Ivan Reichman's son, Jason Reichman, penned the previous script. And I think he had some involvement with this one, but it's like it didn't have what Ghostbusters initially had. Even Afterlife, like I said, which I liked, comparatively to the original Ghostbusters, it didn't have that magic, right? And a lot of what made Ghostbusters great, it really was kind of that lightning in a bottle moment, and it was really well done. And there's definitely things I liked about Frozen Empire. I like the fact that you had a lot more Winston in it, and I know that for the most part he represents the everyman, right? He's basically the audience member personified in the movie. And that's why I think a lot of people kind of relate to that character. And it's good to see that him getting more screen time and having more involvement. It was good to see Annie Potts back as well. But you know, it just wasn't Ghostbusters, you know.
I don't think it can ever be Ghostbusters again.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
the magic just isn't the same anymore.
No, it's not. Yeah.
I mean,
And that's a shame, but that's just the reality. And it, you know, Gary was mentioning on F&T, which I agree with. It's like, you know, it's time to move on from franchises at this point.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's like, you know, put out some original properties. Although every time they do put out something original, it ends up just being either horribly derivative or just awful. Like, I mean, did you see the Damsel movie?
Ooh. No, I didn't. I have no desire to see that. There's one I want to see. Shoot, I'm totally blanking on it. It was Diablo Cody's last movie, which was kind of like a Frankenstein take. I'm totally blanking on what it's called. It looked kind of interesting, right? It's set in the 80s. It's kind of a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely like a modern Frankenstein story. Yeah, totally blanking on what it's called right now. But it looked kind of fun. But apparently it didn't do all that great.
Thought we either didn't see the same film or you're much lighter on films than I am. Man. Whew.
Yeah, Drinker's review is pretty entertaining.
Oh God. And Disparu tore it up pretty bad too.
Yeah.
I'm really getting to like that guy a lot. Disparu.
Oh yeah, he's funny. Yeah,
I've been watching him a lot.
Yeah, he's got some good takes. He's great at taking the piss out of things. That's for sure.
He is. I mean, yeah, he'll spend an hour doing it, but Jesus, I mean, he just thoroughly eviscerates it. Kind of reminds me of old school Mahler, but which I still love Mahler. I still love EFAT, but I mean, I don't have like 6 hours to sit there.
Yeah.
But gosh. Well, Castor, you had. Go ahead.
Did that actually get released in theaters?
Damsel?
Yeah.
No, it was Netflix.
Yeah.
No. Well, I don't think I've seen a Netflix movie that was good. Is there one?
They're few and far between.
There's a few. Crap. I mean, there's one like it came out a number of years ago. It had Madge Mikkelsen in it. And it's not Snowpiercer. It's something else. But that was really good. That was a Netflix original.
Is that the one where he's the assassin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah, it was
That
quite
was-
weirdly funny in some parts.
Yeah. It was a good movie. I mean, they have them on occasion. I'm watching Three Body Problem right now, which I think is pretty decent. I do think it does suffer from a bit of modernity in it. But they're kind of it's an adaptation of the book. It's not the actual book, and for the most part, they're kind of sticking to the story. At least like the more important bits of it. But rather than having like one main character, they kind of split it up into three people, which I thought was pretty funny. It's like,
And
yeah.
Dungeon
Was it
Delver
Paul-
with a
Was it Paul
$10 super
Thing
chat.
you were thinking
Polar,
of?
thank you, Lord Thoth. It's called Polar. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Delver, you didn't specify a clip for me, so I'm just gonna choose one. We'll go with this one.
Say, you wouldn't by any chance be Mike Milligan and the Kitchen Brothers, would you?
You make us sound like a prog rock band. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Mike Milligan and the Kitchen Brothers. Double whoops.
I love Fargo. I'm sorry. I love Fargo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can't wait to see the 5th season of it. Yeah. Haven't seen it yet though.
Yeah, we got bust up the Tito casserole for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, we need to go down to the Radisson.
The Radisson.
Enchiladas. So this is this was a little story that's been kind of popping around for a little bit, and we just never really had a chance to get into it. Last week, a lot of the combat wheelchair stuff came up, and
Oh God.
That's still gonna come up again because I finally downloaded the entire document of that for us to just thoroughly shred Tuesday.
Wait. Did they actually came up with rules for wheelchair?
Oh yeah.
combat? my
Oh
God.
yeah.
do you have that on hand?
I do. I do. have that
I
on.
love it when people are like, you could believe in magic and dragons, but you can't believe somebody in a wheelchair in the setting. Yes, you're right. I can't believe it. Okay. First off, because they would be dead. No one's building wheelchair accessible dungeons. There is a spell called remove paralysis. Maybe you've heard of it.
The dragons. So clearly, I should be allowed an M1 Abrams in the game.
Also, how do you dodge in a wheelchair?
Oh no, yeah. This is I have to give credit because this is Sarah Thompson, and she demands that if you're going to use this on stream or anything like that, you have to give her credit. So here you go. This is her credit.
Is this actually
We don't
put
know
out
who
by
to blame.
WotC? Or is this like a
No, it's free. It is free.
was
It's
this
indoors.
developed
Was this the
independently of
WotC
WotC, or was this official WotC material?
It's not official, but like she wrote the combat wheelchair up for Cyberpunk and a few other things too. So
Pathfinder 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get this straight. For Cyberpunk, you mean the game where they literally have the ability to go and give you prosthetic legs,
yes,
a neural processor which allows your legs to function even if you are paralyzed. That doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone in Cyberpunk be in a wheelchair at this point? It doesn't make any sense.
I wondered
There's
that too.
There's a handful of diseases that affect the nervous system that they generally use as the excuse when they want to fetishize us disabled people.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
which by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, Comix, Grim had put out a phenomenal video talking about the whole combat wheelchair debacle.
Thank you.
I'll have to go check that out.
I'll dig it up. I'll drop a link for you.
Yeah.
We'll go over this one pretty quick, I guess. But apparently it is portable, so it's collapsible. So you can pack it up and fold it up neatly onto the back of any cart or in the saddlebags of a mount.
How do you how you could quickly disable a wheelchair fighter? You just knock their wheelchair over.
Apparently you can't, though, because it gives advantages on being knocked prone. It also gives you bonuses on deck saves.
There's literally nothing you can't do with it, including go upstairs. Like it makes you
Movement
a better
speed.
person actually than you were before.
It's got a 30-foot movement speed regardless of the user's own base walking speed. So automatically halflings.
I mean, just like the very idea of this, I find absolutely frustrating and annoying. Like one of the things I have in my world, there is a species called the Dray. Basically, they're what's left of dragons, right? They've kind of devolved down into humanoids. And in the world I've created, they are highly sought after prizes because of the fact that their hide makes great armor, their claws make great weapons, stuff like that. So there are a lot of disabled Dray in the world because of people that have hunted them down to try and take their body parts. And one of the things I came up with is, I'm not going to say to compensate, but how their society kind of adapted to this is that they have a special type of artificer that allows them to go and craft artificial limbs. And that is, I'm not going to say my answer to it, but it's like the idea of that. Well, you can't have like these half like, butchered creatures running around. Obviously they would die. They'd have to have a way to come and kind of compensate. And so they've developed a special form of magic to give themselves artificial limbs. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't see why you wouldn't add that into your fantasy world. The idea that obviously warriors can get wounded, they can have their limbs cut off, whatnot. And you don't have a magical solution to get around disability at this point. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, your answer is wheelchairs, combat wheelchairs, which we've never seen in any historical setting, right? Nope. I know that they tried to say Ivar the Boneless in the Viking show. You know, he had his war chariot.
That was not a... No, that was not history.
That was not. Yeah, but that was not history. I was going to get to that. It's like the insult they were using Ivar the Boneless was basically saying he was impotent. not, not disabled.
There's an important bone that just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, y'all get ready to slap your head in unison right here. Okay, so in its basic form without upgrades, it costs 200 gold pieces, which is significantly more expensive than a simple wheelchair, which is only 5 gold pieces, which is not made for battle and akin to a hospital wheelchair. And what gets better is it says you can buy a basic combat wheelchair from any good merchant for 200 gold pieces. So they're saying these things are widely available at good merchants for 200 gold pieces, but you could buy a simple one for 5. And I'm kind of like, the mechanical processes to put together even a simple wheelchair would probably cost more than 5 gold pieces on average. I mean, just if you're looking at the spokes and the engineering and everything like that, that's more complex than like a sword or a knife or something.
I would
that might
say
cost
it's just
5.
like a small cart.
Yeah.
Somebody says it.
It would have been easier to just give them wings, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It does give you the swift movement speed when going downhill, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
On fire.
But it does say this is important right here. It does say, remember, the combat wheelchair does not give a disabled character any kind of advantage over the able-bodied character in their party. It merely enables.
Sounds like they did.
Yeah. It enables a disabled character to continue adventuring. You should not be punished for something you can't help. To be punished for having a disability is cruel. Anyone can be a hero.
No, I'm sorry. Not everybody gets a prize, okay? Not everybody is going to be a basketball star. Not everyone is going to be a hero. That is the most ridiculous thing to say.
Well, that's what's insulting about it, I think, and patronizing about it. If you're going to include disabilities, have them be disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Have them be problems to overcome.
Exactly. Well, that's what they don't. They don't want to have that. They don't want people in media to have a disability to overcome their disability. It's that you're perfect the way you are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The one thing I love about with this rule set here is in that little fine print under how tough is this chair.
Mm-hmm.
This rule set is entirely optional. It doesn't need to be used for your games. So that makes everything we write here okay.
Yeah. Well, what I love is the next.
I mean, I'm not gonna say they're not allowed to do it. It's just dumb. Okay.
And they do force it on others. It's just the other problem.
My whole thing. Okay, I hate saying I'm a disabled person, but I am. I have 2 disabilities. I have a learning disability, and I'm blind in one of my eyes. Okay, that by definition makes me disabled. I don't view myself as being disabled, though. It's just something I've learned to deal with and overcome. And whenever I hear people talking about, you can't have a disabled person overcoming their disability, I find that to be highly insulting.
Yeah.
Highly insulting.
Yeah. Someone was saying in my comments, it's the difference between a person with disabilities and a disabled person.
Yeah.
It's these people's entire identity. They've wrapped everything up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't show...
Well, and the other thing too, I mean, there's different grades of being disabled. It's like I'm still able-bodied. I can walk around. I'm not confined to a wheelchair, but I still bump into things because I'm blind in my right eye. Like I say, my depth perception is affected, but also my peripheral vision is affected. So there's times where I'll fucking knock something over because I just can't see it. So.
But crutches and wheelchairs are publicly visible. They're easy to display and use as examples, and you can virtue signal off of them so easily.
Yeah.
It's just doesn't matter that most of us have like crippling disabilities because we don't fit neatly onto the cover of a D&D supplement with a wheelchair. That's what's annoying about it.
Well, what I love is that it says right here in the print, it says the combat wheelchair doesn't have hit points. It can withstand 3 consecutive critical hits in the same encounter, inflicted by either melee weapons or melee spells before it must be repaired using either Tinker's tools or Smith's tools, or you could pay someone 100 gold pieces. Once repaired, it's as good as new.
So it's 100 gold pieces to repair a 5 gold piece wheelchair?
A 200 gold piece wheelchair. Or the mending cantrip. And it says when in need of repairs, you could still use your wheelchair for everyday tasks such as mobility and ascending or descending stairs. and any upgrades you have acquired remain in effect and are usable. So even if it breaks, it still works.
Oh, I'm sure it's not flammable either. It's not like someone casts.
I was thinking just hitting it with a fireball, sending it to splinters.
This is the dumbest picture.
It is. I mean, they actually do have animal wheelchairs like that for dogs.
They do.
So, I mean, it's technically accurate. It's just dumb.
And it does say
away
only
for a second, and I look back, and T-shirts scrolled down. I'm like, was that a dick?
No. It says only critical hits can damage the chair. A normal attack does not. I'm like,
oh, fucking shit.
I'm like, I'm sorry. If I take a mace or a hammer to somebody's chair, it's gonna, yeah. There's gonna be an effect, but I mean, this is just the start of it. I mean, this started out being like a small document, and it's already ballooned all the way up to like a 68-page document.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do have to credit it. So there you go. And let me see, I gotta link it. So links to this must clearly display on the credits. So there you go, guys.
Such nonsense.
That's a big T right there.
Yeah.
And it also has some NPCs who use them. It has some background story.
There's like a whole story to go with the fucking
Yeah, there is. There's a few new critters to go along with it. So that's kind of cool. But there's also like
goblin in a
classes.
wheelchair, bugbear in a wheelchair, owlbear in a wheelchair.
I guess.
I would basically introduce the wood mite that specifically targets wheelchairs, much like the rust monster, the wheelchair mite.
Most of the characters.
I want stats for a quadriplegic halfling you can use as a mace or a flail.
It has archetypes that are designed around it too. Like this is a rogue archetype, and
who's also very
the one ability that is reliant on stealth is going to function perfectly in a wheelchair.
I like the ranger one just because it's kind of like, yeah, it'd be really good to creep around in the forest and the swamps and other things with this thing.
See, that's why I think modern Forgotten Realms or whatever this is supposed to be is dumb, because you can shovel anything into the setting. It's so cosmopolitan and boring that you can make anything in Forgotten Realms now. Maybe not 30 years ago, but now, and no one bats an eye. The setting has no verisimilitude. It annoys me.
It's rifts without the testosterone.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good way of putting it.
Here's a good one for you guys. Your combat wheelchair is considered a mount if you intend to use it in that style of mounted combat. You also gain proficiency in pole arms. Wow. All spells and magical effects in this oath are also shared with your combat wheelchair or mount. When being used as a mount, the chair still works as the core rule set describes. But if you use this oath, assuming that your mount can provoke attacks of opportunity against the same way a horse can, refer to section "How tough is the chair" for guidance on the critical hit system and the chair's ability to take damage. Oh, and while using the chair for combat, you now have a 40-foot movement and the ability to trample your enemies.
Wait a minute! I thought they just said that they don't give advantages to players more so than able-bodied ones. It sounds like they have quite a few advantages than. Being able-bodied, so
yeah, and if you manage to knock your target prone with this thing, you can use your bonus action to make an additional attack with your weapon on them. I mean, I'm sorry, but for 200 gold pieces, I'm like, kings would outfit their entire army with these things.
Yeah,
I mean, you think of the mixed combat arms regiments that would be formed with these, because now you have infantry that can also act as cavalry when needed.
Yeah. So is that called the Oath of the Virtue Signal?
I guess so.
For that much gold, I would just hire a dragon. Forget it.
Oh my.
Yeah, they have a monk tradition using it too, apparently, which oh my. I don't even know. I mean, monk is like one of my favorite classes.
So the chairborne division is no longer a joke then.
Yeah. Now you have mechanized infantry
in wheelchairs. Da, 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 da.
Men, we're going to have to rethink our strategy. Why is that, sir? Well, they've just pulled up to the front lines and they have wheelchairs.
Yeah.
I will give them credit for spending so much time and putting so much length and breadth into something so banal.
It's needs an orc called the Lazy Boys now.
Yeah.
Why not just imbue them with magic and have them hover? Much like the same way Professor X's wheelchair flies around.
I think you can, actually. Some of these archetypes, I believe, can do that. Oh, yeah. Apparently, sentient weapon. I don't know if you can use your wheelchair for that or not.
Some of this art is so bad, I wonder why they even bothered at all.
I kind of like the art. It's not so bad at all. I mean, this is not a bad document. As it's written and everything, it's pretty cool. I mean, as far as the writing itself,
That's bad.
Wow, I didn't realize that the Middle Ages had saxophones.
I mean, why not? I mean, they can have wheelchairs, so
Literally anything. If you look at the
with a
5th
rolling
edition
drum
bard,
kit.
it looks like it's a chick with like a fully modern guitar, like she just walked out of Guitar Center. Like, I swear, she just walked like an electric guitar. It's really weird.
oh my gosh. Oh yeah, and this is the Artificer. Yeah,
Oh,
the
boy.
Artificer. You knew it was coming. Yeah.
Gun.
Yeah. Now Ironcaster wants to play it.
Well, I mean, okay. You guys were just complaining about Forgotten Realms, right? That's like one of the issues I have with the movies is I hate this kind of Renaissance era of the Forgotten Realms. I like the Middle Ages, right? Like whenever I think of Dungeons and Dragons, I think of movies like Dragon Slayer, right? Because that's kind of like right in line with what D&D used to be.
Yeah.
It has a wizard in it. There's a dragon. The guy is the wizard's apprentice and goes to try and kill this dragon. It's stuff like that, and it's a shame we don't have these like very kind of simple sword and sorcery, or low to high or middle fantasy, whatever type movies. What I want to see out of a D&D movie or a story is just something that would be fun to watch, something that takes itself seriously, right? And that's a lot of my issues with the previous D&D movies, is that they really don't take themselves seriously or the setting seriously. They make it kind of a joke, and that was a lot of my issues with the last movie. Even though I did find it to be a bit endearing, I did enjoy it for what it was worth, but it's not the movie I want to see for D&D. It's like with a lot of things that get adapted. It's like they make a joke out of it rather than trying to take the source material seriously. And that's the issue here with having wheelchairs in D&D. You are not taking the setting seriously, because in the Middle Ages, if you were lame or crippled or whatever, you were more of a burden on society than you were able to go and contribute. And that's fine. Right? You take care of your elders, you take care of the people within your society. But to say that they are going to be out there on the front lines and being adventurers, you are fooling yourself. It is a lie. And the other thing too, when I play a role-playing game, I don't want to play myself.
No.
I mean, that's the whole point of the game, is to make up a character and be something different. And it's why I always say, and again, it depends on the setting, it's why I don't pick humans, because I am one.
Yeah,
Now,
my friends are the same way.
I'm not saying that, D&D has always been this serious, middle-aged, low fantasy thing, because it hasn't been. First edition and original D&D had a lot of ridiculous stuff. There's modules with gnomes that have tanks and like weird stuff. I
mean, you are correct,
but it's that's irrelevant, because just that's just a one-off thing. That's kind of a joke, and you go through it and it's a little wacky and gonzo. It's not like the whole setting where everything has to be that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like there's like older modules like the White Plum Mountains, where maybe it's White Plume, I don't remember. Where it's like a fucking UFO crashed in the mountain.
Oh, that's Expedition to Barrier Peaks.
Oh, yeah, Expedition to Barrier Peaks. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was one of those. I always get those two confused. But yeah, I mean, that's I think it's an AD&D module. Might just be a regular D&D module. But yeah, it's like you do have ridiculous things like that. But I prefer just like more of your medieval fantasy more so than anything else. I don't like the kind of goofy technology. I don't even like having guns in my fantasy games, like the Arquebus.
I honestly blame some of that on Dragonlance and the Tinker Gnomes being brought in. And then, of course, World of Warcraft ran with that even more. And then D&D 3.
You had stuff like that back in the 70s and 80s, too. Because that's where some of that kind of like goofy silliness kind of comes from, is that time period. Yeah. I would say probably up to like the late 80s, early 90s is where, you can say it started taking itself a little bit more serious. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's always seemed a little bit tongue-in-cheeky. I mean, it's like the original Blackmore campaign with the Arneson. It was a technological and a fantasy setting. So that's always been present. But I mean, for them to start actually doing steampunk level stuff, that's only happened within the last 20. Well, actually,
third edition.
That's what Eberron's for.
Yeah, that's what Eberron pretty much is.
Yeah, what's the point of Eberron?
If you want to have that kind of setting, it's like that's fine. But you can definitely do that in D&D, right? You have like these different like settings, whatnot. I mean, Dark Sun is like one of my favorite settings because of the fact that it was so different than what we got with your typical kind of fantasy tropes. The idea that you have, for the most part, this kind of like hostile world. It's kind of almost a dead world at this point. Kind of not really. And just, it was such a great idea. The fact that it was supposed to be so brutal that your starting character is at 3rd level rather than 1st level, because you'd be dead in the first 5 minutes of the game if you weren't a higher level. And just like, the concepts and were just really interesting on how the world came about, and the fact that you have these mages that suck the life out of the planet, and all this kind of cool shit. But now it's because it has slavery in it. It's considered to be problematic, and WotC won't go and adapt, Dark Sun for 5th edition or whatever edition they're coming out with next, because of the fact
that really want them to.
Don't want them to.
Well, I mean, pretty much at this point, yeah. What's the point? But the idea behind it is the fact that because it won't pass their sensitivity readers.
Oh no!
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
It's like 3 per writer.
What's that?
Yeah.
I think they said something like 3 sensitivity writers or readers per writer.
Yeah, it's 3 passes of sensitivity readers for every written project.
And the fact that they're even doing that is ridiculous, because when we talk about putting constraints on creativity. The idea, you cannot do these things. Well, why can't I? Well, because it's offensive. To whom? It's having worked in tech, after the whole thing with 2020 and George Floyd, they started going and purging master from tech. Like if you're familiar with Git, you have your master branch, right? Yeah. And suddenly it became your main or primary branch, which, I don't have a problem with changing it, but it's the idea behind it. Oh, you no longer have a master slave drive, or a master and slave Jenkins. And it's just like, why?
What material effect is this going to have on the inner city?
Sorry, go ahead, Graham.
So what material effect is changing that going to have on the inner city? Yeah, as opposed to investing money in housing and education.
Right. Well, I mean, the funny thing about it is, like, I've worked with several Black people in tech. Never heard them complain about the terminology. Never. I'm sure it never fucking crossed their mind.
It just takes one more language change, and then we'll fix Chicago, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
one more.
The censorship has gotten so egregious that it's not just that you can't include anything that they deem controversial. You can't associate with anyone who has. Mm-hmm. And that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The guilt by association.
The one thing I don't have an issue with them changing is the color of the dark elf skin, because it doesn't make any sense, the fact that they're dark skinned living underground, right? So they kind of made it more like this kind of gray or purplish color, which I think actually looks cool.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of the Drow as well. Ever since they released it in second edition to where you could play a Drow, always made a Drow.
Oh yeah.
So, what did you think about the recent changes they did, where they started introducing other other Drow cities where they're good?
Oh yeah. Have you heard about that?
Yeah,
No.
I've heard about that. There's multiple Drow
no.
civilizations now.
There's always been a faction within the Drow that was good. And I can't remember the one good Drow goddess. And again, that dates back to the 90s when they released that source material.
Illustray.
Right?
Illustray. Yeah.
The thing is, though, they've gone and made the change that most Drow underground are good. It's just that Menzo Berenzan is just so notorious that they give all Drow a bad name.
Mm-hmm. It's just the one bad city with the bad elves. All the other Drow are good elves.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm waiting on the. Go ahead.
It's just ridiculous, man. I mean, it's it's like the whole thing with we got to make a rule now that not all orcs are evil. It's like, shit, dude, you could have done that before, right? It's not like you couldn't do it. It's not like the rule said sorry. It says it's chaotic evil. All orcs are chaotic evil. It's like, come on, this is just the template, right? And a lot of it is because you need monsters to fight, and nobody wants to fight good monsters unless you're evil, whatever.
Yeah. And I think even way back, I don't quote me on this because I don't remember actually reading this, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it at least at some point. If it wasn't Gygax himself, somebody in the past wrote that the monster manual statistics are just basic guidelines for NPC monsters that you could run into, but a PC is perfectly within their rights to have a different alignment or a different set of stats or whatever to whatever creature if they're playing a creature.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just waiting.
But I hate this idea that. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just waiting on the 5th Godzilla movie after this one, where King Kong is in a wheelchair. I want to see that.
God.
I want to see the kaiju wheelchair.
Yeah.
Well, hey, don't you remember? Was it? I can't remember the name of it, but it was a King Kong movie where they brought him back to life by implanting a mechanical heart.
And
he
the one
comes.
Where he gets zapped with electricity like Frankenstein.
No, I think that was King Kong. That was I remember that one too, but no, this was a. It was supposed to be a. King Kong Lives. Yeah, it was supposed to be a direct sequel to the original, where they literally gave him a heart transplant and he has a wife and
Oh my God. One of the things I hate about what we're seeing in games now is this moral ambiguity. It's like you have good and evil. That's the whole point. Even in a world like Dark Sun, which I would say the world tends to be a lot more harsher, and you can definitely see that the people in power are definitely evil, but you still have good and evil. And this idea of that, it's just moral shades of gray, and there's a place for that. But the idea, if you're wanting to play a hero, you go out and do battle with evil. Yeah. And I hate this idea that we're trying to get away from any kind of morality, right?
I agree. Now, to be fair, all throughout the history of D&D, I think a lot of dungeon masters would say that their players, in most circumstances, would be seen as evil. or at least chaotic, just in terms of the chaos that they sow across the land as they go adventuring.
It depends, right? I mean, I've definitely played my fair share of evil characters, and one of them was rather short-lived. I think we got up the 3rd level, and then we got TPK'd, and that TPK was my fault.
It happens.
Well, and a lot of it too is I was playing this neutral evil thief, and we're in this dungeon, and one of my friends was playing a paladin. Uh-oh. And yeah, that's a problem right there. This is why you gotta, when you're making characters for a game, you gotta talk and make sure what you're doing is compatible. So there's this guy being whipped by demons. We kill the demons. I'm like, it's like, you like pain? He's like, yeah. It's like if you give us what we want to know, I will promise you an eternity of pain. And there's also, I forgot to mention, there's also these pits of fire. So he tells us what we want, and I kick the dude into the pit of fire. And the paladin's like, you should not have done that. That was not very nice. I was like, I gave him what he asked for. And so I walk off at that point, and my poor friend Pete, big fucking mistake. He's like, "That's right, walk away." And I just turn and give him a look, and I fucking draw my sword. And literally at that point, everybody takes sides, and we all fucking start killing each other. And then, so my other friend Danny, he's playing. He's like Pete's good friend. He's playing a dwarven fighter. I don't remember if he's a barbarian or a dwarf. I kill the paladin. The barbarian kills me, and when the smoke clears after everyone is done killing each other, the cultists who are watching us through the murder holes basically unleash crossbow bolts into the survivors, and that was it.
Damn, y'all did the DM's job for him.
We did. Yeah. And the moral of the story is make sure that when you're creating your characters, everybody's compatible.
or just never bring a paladin. That's,
yeah.
Yeah.
That is kind of the same. Yeah, that's a whole different can of worms. But yeah, the whole, lawful good paladin thing is kind of like, because that rule was so easily abused. And the sad thing is, I think a lot of DMs contributed to paladins becoming such screwed up classes as much as anything else. Yeah, because depending on how much of an asshole your DM is, they could just say, "Oh, you stepped on that cockroach. That was an evil act. It wasn't harming you. You lose your paladin status." Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of it too is that I think based off the idea of being lawful good, people, I'm not gonna say are too literal with it. It's like the paladin is not the morality police. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like you have a thief in the party. You know what the thief is going to do, right? It's more like, don't steal in front of me, and we're fine, right? Okay, we get it.
Or if you're a wise paladin, you kind of go like, well, I realize that you're not a good guy, but you're working with us towards a good end, so I'll tolerate your shit up to a certain point.
Exactly. As long as you're not committing like grievous acts of evil, we're fine. It's like the paladin can work with the thief, just fine. It's like they're not going to agree on everything. And I'm sure your paladin is going to have problems with certain things, but as long as it's not being done in front of your paladin, it should be fine. And it's the idea behind being lawful good is not supposed to be like overly stringent. It is, right? It's a moral framework that you're supposed to be working within. The idea is that, you understand, you follow the laws, whether you agree with them or not. Maybe you bend them to a point, especially if you're in a lawful evil area. But the idea behind it is that lawful evil is tyranny, and lawful good. I'm not going to say is the purest form of good. I always think like the neutrals are
neutral
the purest
good
form.
is.
Yeah, neutral good is the purest form of good. Neutral evil is the purest form of evil. And that was what I was playing with my thief, was a neutral evil thief.
So he was the evilest of evil. Yeah. Kind of funny you would mention this, because this kind of got me thinking off of a different topic, because you started talking about, the goodest goods and paladins, and I started thinking of Superman immediately. But then something else kind of shot out of my brain, because my brain kind of went on, let's go into ADHD and just run off with a different topic. But it kind of struck me that, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel is pretty much what I was always afraid that the Superman character in the comics and in the movies would be like. It's like so ridiculously overpowered that you don't feel anything for the character, because it's kind of like, oh well, she's just utterly perfect and can do anything. So why is she even in this film? Why are we even watching this? We know she's going to succeed.
Well, I mean, the whole thing, when it comes to like a character like Superman, you have this all-powerful being, right? And how do you give that all-powerful being weaknesses? Okay, sure, there's kryptonite, right? That's one thing. But the weakness, and I use the term weakness loosely, is going to be either his morality, that can be exploited as a weakness, right? The fact that he's a good person, he wants to save people and help people, and that it can be exploited. That's what I mean by a weakness. Being a good person is not a weakness. It's just that it can be exploited by evil people. Yeah. And the fact that he has mortal friends. Okay. So putting them in danger, stuff like that. That is the way you kind of manipulate or put that powerful individual into a situation where you have to make those like moral judgments or whatever. That's how you make that character interesting is the situations you put that good person into that has a lot of power. Yeah. It's the reason why Lex Luthor is such a great nemesis, despite the fact that he is a normal person. He's very smart and he's able to go and manipulate these situations. I give you a choice, Superman. You can let this train kill a bunch of infant orphans, or you can save your girl from sudden death, things like that. Okay. That's how you make that character interesting. When it comes to Captain Marvel, I mean, she's like legit evil. We have to get out of here, but there's all these people that need to be saved. It's too late for them. We have to go, kid. And that's a great. They could have done something interesting with that, where you have Kamala Khan looking up to Captain Marvel, and she's like, "We gotta get the fuck out of here. Screw these people." And she basically calls her out. It's like, "Why do I idolize you? You're an awful person." And it kind of makes her kind of like reconsider her actions, and it makes her more interesting as a character. The fact that you have this all-powerful being that, quite frankly, kind of doesn't give a shit about helping other people.
Yeah, I mean, she can literally restart a sun, no problem. Like, who the hell can do that?
It would have been an interesting way to, if they want to really go and take this Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel character, and really push her up, and make her more likable. The thing is, they would have to kind of sacrifice Captain Marvel in the process, and I don't think, and that's the problem. They're not willing to take one of these people they think of as a hero and try to shine a light on just the shitty behavior they have.
Yeah. It's like you don't need to make her Homelander, but it's this idea of like you have this person with all these powers. It's the, with great power comes great responsibility. What happens if you don't take responsibility? Well, bad things can happen to people and you don't give a shit about it. And then the people that were otherwise supporting you were like, dude, you're awful. It's like legitimately, you were an awful human being. And you could have had that interesting character development moment where she's like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be a hero and I'm not. How do I fix that? Moment of growth. Nope.
Nah.
Not in the slightest.
No. I think that's kind of why Phase 4 and Phase 5 just both suck as Marvel Phase. That's why Marvel is just driving itself into the dirt.
Big time.
Makes me sad. It makes me sad. I mean, because we used to love. I used to love it, man. We would pilgrimage to Dallas, which is pretty far away from where I live, just to go watch all the Marvel movies on the big
IMAX.
On the big IMAX screens, because it was like there's no movie experience like watching it in IMAX, especially when they had 3D. Golly, I mean, it's something. I mean, even that horrible Thor: The Dark World in IMAX still is cool, even if it's the crappy Thor film, But the new ones is just kind of like, why? I don't want to spend any money on this, let alone a car trip, and on all that shit. There's no way.
It's not worth it. I mean, that's kind of my problem. Like seeing Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire in the theater. It's like, I saw it during a matinee. Still cost me $15. Quite frankly, not worth it. Yeah. That is not a movie that I would recommend people going to spend money on. It's like, wait till it streams if you want to see it. It's not worth it.
Well, if they are bringing the X-Men in, then Rogue can just eat Captain Marvel and the whole problem solves itself.
Yeah, there you go. Actually, that would be a good. That would actually be a good arc for that character. They could redeem the character that way, because if Rogue did zap Captain Marvel and steal all her powers, and they could write a story of forcing her to have to learn to live and not be an asshole anymore because she's powerless.
But again, it ultimately requires them to sacrifice the Captain Marvel character
a little bit.
Oh well, I mean, at this point, they're not doing Captain Marvel 3 at this point.
No.
It's that's why one of the rumor mills is that Ant-Man's not getting a sequel, Eternals is not getting a sequel, and the Captain Marvel's not getting a sequel either. And it's like, no shit. Okay, it shouldn't have got one to begin with for obvious reasons. It performed poorly. It's like it wasn't as atrocious as the original Captain Marvel movie, but it's still bad. It's not a great film. It doesn't nearly have as much as the message as the first one. But this is something we all pointed out when people were saying it made $1 billion. It's like the sequel is not going to, and it didn't.
No. And Squeaka Mouse with a $20 super sticker. Thank you, Squeaka. Let me give you a
What was the
let me give you
sticker?
a clip.
You
It's
can't see
a
it.
guy, people hugging. It's a hug.
It's a lemon head person hugging something.
What do you think?
Unacceptable.
Bakamite? What do you think? Bakamite for this one?
Sure.
Sure. Let's do it.
I always hit those pattern things. I always screw it up.
I get kind of good at
doing that in
those.
Sekiro where you had to cut through the bamboo. It's like it was a pain.
Oh, I can't wait to play. I can't wait to play that Ghosts of
Sorry, not Sekiro.
Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I can't wait to play Ghost of Tsushima when it hits PC. I'm so excited for that.
It's such a good game.
Yeah. Our friend Snowdub has been playing the hell out of it every Saturday. So
It's a fun game.
yeah, it looks
Really
fun.
good, really good game. It's funny talking about the whole thing with the gaming industry and whatnot, and they're talking about the whole thing with POCs. This is a game, just Japanese characters, great story, great characters. This is all we ask out of gaming. It's like the whole thing with white protagonist, blah blah blah. It's like Sekiro, and Sekiro is a good example of that too. Ghost of Tsushima, those are good examples of games that don't have a white protagonist that are just fantastic.
We are graced with a Latino slant.
I do
Oh,
nothing
nice.
for your pleasure, Polly. Oh, we've established this.
All right, slant. You didn't say which clip you wanted. Let me give you a sax of boom. Everybody loves that one. My gosh. Comics, I got to have you on here more often, man. Look at all these people tipping today. This is crazy. I've gotten more tips today than I have like in months.
Oh,
It's
that's
awesome.
good. Yeah, fantastic.
It's awesome. Speaking of which, we're over an hour. I don't know how your time is or how anybody's time is. So just want to be mindful of that.
Got about another 20 minutes is good for me.
Okay.
So, in that case, should we get back to that AI, the AI article?
Castor's been
little topics.
He's been bugging me about this for a couple of weeks, so he really wants to chew
you
on
mean
this.
the thing that they're denied that they're going to be using it, but apparently they're now embracing?
Oh yeah, they will.
Bingo. Yeah. So, in a recent interview, Chris Cox revealed the Hasbro CEO has high hopes for the AI and content creation. According to a March 1st interview by VentureBeat, Cox foresees a future where AI can generate content and game scenarios for Hasbro's major IPs, including Magic and Dungeons & Dragons. He's cited a couple examples, such as stuff they've already done with the virtual Ouija board and a free online version of Trivial Pursuit with AI-generated questions. That last one apparently boosted the original Trivia Pursuit sales by 30%.
Oh, and Clobby, thank you, man. This $3 super sticker. Let me throw him a Lucas real quick. Here's a George for you.
They're dissolving this thing in a molten salt, and they're doing electrochemistry on it. Why don't they call it molten salt? They want
Random George Lucas.
Yes.
Oh, I sold Star Wars off. So long, fuckwads.
You can eat my shorts. I've got billions. Oh my god, that was hilarious. I'm sorry to tangent off on you there, Ironcaster, but like the other day, somebody was asking me how much you think Gabe Newell's worth, and I'm like, oh, he's got to be worth at least a 200 or 300 million. I checked him out, and it was like 5.1 billion. I was like, Jesus Christ! I was like,
and still no Half-Life 3.
Yeah, he can't count to 3.
Lucrative Steam sales.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Go ahead. Sorry.
To be fair, in computing, you only need to be able to count to 1.
True. But we were laughing about it because he was asking me about it, trying to compare Mr. Beast to Gabe Newell, and Mr. Beast is only like 500 million. And it's kind of like Gabe Newell sitting back there going, "Yes, I have Mr. Beast employed in my garage. He's busy shining my fleet of Lamborghinis that I bought."
I think Notch might be more. I'm not sure.
Are you serious?
I mean,
dude, look
Notch
that up.
has disappeared from public life just like Gabe has.
Jesus.
So did you guys hear that Larian Studios is not going to be working with Wizards of the Coast anymore?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people are shocked about that, but I'm kind of like, why would they? I mean, they
basically fired everybody that they were working with. I think that, I'm not gonna. My guess is that Hasbro and WotC kind of soured the relationship, and also the fact that, at this point, it seems like WotC is in kind of a tailspin going down. As they laid off like the majority of their creatives for D&D, which my guess is that they're probably switching to more AI generated content for their stuff.
So unfortunately it's not in this article, but they have given some interviews where they've explicitly said they plan to take all their like 50 years of older content, and the phrase they used was mine it. They wanted to go and mine that and use it just to go remix and generate new adventures with AI.
Well, that's not hard. Shit, I could do that.
It's not. And I think that, AI is not a bad tool to use, right? I mean, there's times where I use it to seed ideas off of, or I'm having trouble coming up with something, but I don't use it to create the entire adventure. I just use it to kind of come up with an idea for something. And it's not perfect. Obviously, you got to improve on it, what it comes back with, but it's like a tool with anything else, but you can't have it design everything for you, because if you do, it's just gonna be generic.
Yeah, or it's going to break down and stop making sense at some point, as I've seen with.
Well, it depends, and Chat GPT continues to evolve as they kind of like feed more information into it and whatnot. And I use a lot of AI generated art for my game. Because it's like, oh, cool. I can use something to generate what NPCs look like and use them as handouts. It's like, that's fantastic. That's why I use what I use it for. If I was to publish my setting, I would definitely go and hire somebody to create art for me. But just, I'm not going to do that for a game that I'm not making money on.
Well, that's
my friends.
That's a bone of contention that has come up pretty frequently, actually, is and Grim will probably be the one to tell you, but a lot of these smaller studios and projects, these small game designers don't have an art budget, so AI is the way to go.
Yeah.
But
I don't have an issue with that either. It's like, as long as it looks good, I'm not gonna complain about it.
Yeah, but there's enormous bullying and harassment that goes on for anyone who uses AI art on their project. So what annoys me about Wizards doing it is like, they have the budget, they have the sales, they can afford to hire artists, and here they are talking about using AI in place of both writers and artists when they can afford. Just get rid of some of these sensitivity readers instead and pay people who actually do something useful. Do that.
My beef is when people were like, well, there's no reason you should ever use real artists. If you're not using AI art, you're doing it wrong. There's like,
both extremes.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say there's a use case for each. I mean, if I had the money to pay an artist to come up with the stuff, yeah, sure, I'd do it. But this is a game I'm running with my friends. AI art is fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, if I was to publish my setting and I could raise the money to do it, I would definitely hire somebody to create art for me.
Crowdfunding's another example, though. It was
Mhm.
it came out and it was meant for the little guy to be able to raise budgets to produce things
Mhm.
on a broader scale. Now it's
you
just
have
a
companies
pre-order
doing it.
system for big companies.
Yeah.
And so frustrating.
No,
Well,
it is.
And anytime a tool comes out that's made with a smaller user in mind, the bigger companies will always find a way to exploit it and make it their own.
Well, it makes sense, right? If you're a company, and let's say you're not making much money as you used to be because of whatever reason, just because, whatever. I can see utilizing a tool to try and save money. And the biggest issue right now, what we're seeing with WotC, is what we've been seeing in the gaming industry, console gaming, computer gaming, whatever, where it's this microtransaction focus. And that's one of the things that WotC is trying to do is, okay, we know we can make money off of the GM because of modules and, books and supplements, blah, blah, blah. Well, how do we monetize the player? And that's the issue, is that is the mindset they're going into. It's like, write good modules, and this is something they used to do on the regular. They would release, I don't know how many modules a year, but there is a battery of modules that you can go and use. I mean, I sometimes will go and take old D&D modules and adapt it for the world that I'm using.
Oh yeah,
because it's easier, and I'll go and recreate the dungeon or whatever it is in Dungeon Draft, which is a fantastic tool for creating caverns, dungeons, and whatever, cool. Battle maps, etc. Fantastic tool, especially if you get the right assets for it. And I mean, it's like, come up with that. And again, you have the other issue with sensitivity readers, okay, which are a way of vacuuming all the fun out of a game. The fact that you can't have a game that has a thrall in it or a slave or whatever, because the fact that, that's insensitive to certain people that have been enslaved in the past. It's like nobody fucking cares.
Yeah. Every kind of people has been enslaved in the past.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you now have a group of people that are faux offended by the concept of slavery existing. It's like history is messy.
Yes.
That's the reality. That's one of the things I really like about the Shogun series. Is it shows how messy history it is. It doesn't portray the Japanese as this wonderfully enlightened people. It shows the savagery that happened during that time period as well. Yes, they have their enlightenment. They are in certain ways better than the Europeans, especially when it came to their bathing habits. But you have them in the first episode or the second episode, a dude getting boiled in a pot of water, alive, and it literally shows the savagery and barbarism of the Japanese people. And it's the same thing. You see the same issues with the Europeans as well. It doesn't shed either group in such a positive light. It shows you the good and bad of both societies. I thought, it's really well done. And it's the same thing with D&D. It's like, you're not going to have this utopian society. You have evil, you have oppression. And that's the reason why you have heroes coming into the world to go and try and make it a better place. Allegedly.
It's funny mentioning Japanese brutality, because it's like, one of their they had some brutal torture methods. Like, one of the things that they used to do is they would take 3 triangular shaped wooden blocks. They would make someone kneel on it, and those points would obviously dig into your shins and your legs, and they would start piling heavy stones on your knees. So, and that was to get people to confess and stuff. I'm like, I'd tell you whatever the hell you wanted to know just looking at those things.
Yeah, just look at the Japanese and how they treated prisoners of war during the Pacific War, right?
Oh, yeah.
World War II. I mean, they were brutal. They were awful.
I mean, I've got a Filipino friend who I grew up with. His father was stationed in the Philippines during World War II, and his father was captured by the Japanese, and they beat the shit out of him every day, and they ripped out all his toenails.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why the Chinese hate the Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Racism.
Well, I mean, there was a time when the Japanese were a conquering people, and they treated the Chinese like they were not even human beings and just committed horrible atrocities against them. Yeah, the Koreans too. They still treat the Koreans pretty badly. They make them carry internal passports and change their names and stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, we still like our anime and our manga.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything bad is. Not everyone who is comes from a bad culture is a bad person. And
We
well,
got free reign.
one of the other issues too that we kind of run into is that they want to go and take European stuff and they want to, make it more, like I say, metropolitan, more diverse, whatever, right? Without having an understanding of what brings diversity.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, like, you guys saw Rings of Power, right?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So the funny thing about it is, this is one thing I always explain. It's like, okay, you have this group of black people living in the village. Okay. Within 3 to 4 generations, they're all going to be white again. Because they don't understand the fact that in order for that segment of a population to thrive, there needs to be a reason why they're not disappearing. And if you have a landlocked area and you have a group, majority of the population is of one skin color and a minority in another, that minority group is going to be mixed into that group within 3 to 4 generations.
Have you not seen our why all races or why all movies are like modern Los Angeles now?
Yeah. New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of these port cities, in the Middle Ages were very diverse. You had all these different people coming in. And the reason why you had that diversity is because there was an influx of people coming in and out. And you're not going to get that in a landlocked area.
No, it's like, Iceland, like Iceland didn't have redheads until they started conquering the Irish, taking their women back.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
But comics diversity.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for diversity where it makes sense.
Well,
but where
I
it doesn't
too.
make
It's
sense.
like, if you don't want to do something European, then don't do something European. If you want to have diversity in minorities, go adapt something from a different culture, right? There's plenty to draw from South America, Mexico to, obviously Asia, really good example of that, to the Middle East, to Africa. Why don't you go and adapt that? Because they know, I think in their heart of hearts, which is kind of funny, because I don't know if you guys saw the, I'm not going to call it the controversy around Shogun. You have someone complaining about where's the Black Samurais at?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
There was one.
There is historical evidence that there was a dude during the time of Nobunaga who was an African brought to Japan, and depending on what you read, he was either a mercenary or a slave. I think the reality, he was probably more of a mercenary than a slave, because I don't understand how a slave could become a samurai if he wasn't already a trained warrior. But he became a samurai, right? And that did happen, but that was like one dude. And yeah, occasionally you probably had Africans coming to Japan, and maybe they became samurai, but that was few and far between. Much like the same thing with the white Protestants and the Catholics that came to Japan, few and far between. And eventually got to the point where they're all kicked out of the country anyway. And there was a considerable effort to de-Christianize Japan after the Europeans were kicked out. So yeah, it's just kind of funny. What was that?
There's a lot of very selective historical sort of dumpster diving that goes on.
Yeah.
Whether it's like they'll say, "Oh, but there were plenty of blacks in Europe, prior to the slave trade," because you can see one in the back of this painting. Right? Yeah, he existed. He was there. He was imported as a curiosity. Is that what you want your representation to be? Or back to the wheelchair argument, I had someone trying to say, well, they had wheelchairs going right the way back to ancient China, and he showed me this picture, and I'm like, sir, this is a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
It's not a wheelchair. He's being pushed around by a servant.
Mhm.
That's not what you're talking about.
It's a palanquin.
Yeah.
It's all looked at through the problem is they'll go look back, but they're looking at it with the modern lens. They're not taking into context the events around it.
Well, they don't want the context around it because like history again, like I said, is messy. And yeah. But at the same time, it's the reason why they always take European stuff and diversify it. It's like the one thing I thought was funny, even before the woke stuff started creeping in, and when we're watching the Thor movie, it's like, wow, Asgard sure is really diverse. You know, well, it's like, but the same people, I dare them to go and adapt something from Africa and start putting Hispanic and Asian people into it, right? Because I mean, they weren't there. They're perfectly fine going and taking and diversifying, European or American mythology or whatever, but they won't do it when it's another culture, and I find that to be absolutely hilarious that they refuse to do it because they know that they will get called out, whether it's whitewashing or whatever.
I mean, they're not going to make.
Go ahead.
They're not going to make Roots with Ryan Gosling playing Kunta Kinte. They'd put that on blast so hard that
their argument would be
you got a couple people grilling him about his Makuhito game, even though he's Mexican and has like Aztec ancestry. They're like, what gives you the right to be creating a product with this culture? And like, it's like, my name is Torres.
My imagination is what gives me the fucking right to do it. That's the issue. It is that my imagination, my creativity, that's what gives me the right. I hate this idea that because I'm a white dude, I can't come up with a interesting story about a person that doesn't look like me. Oh, I have to go to Poly because I want to, write something. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, right? Because if you're not of that culture, you need to understand it, either by doing your own research or talking to people. And that does make sense, but it doesn't mean you don't have the right to do it. I hate this idea that as a creative, you can't have a black protagonist in your story because you're not black. It's ridiculous.
I used to make a joke. I mean, it's like, even though I'm a Hispanic, it's like if I wanted to do something, set in, at the Aztec Empire, it's like, I don't speak Nahuatl, so it's not like I could, but I'm pretty sure, I used to joke about that. And then John actually went and did it. Mm-hmm. And he had people coming after him saying, what gives you the right? And I'm kind of like, he's Mexican. What do you expect? I mean, who else should do this? Do you want to get like a fucking Indian from the deep south of Mexico to do it or something? Fucking somebody who's still speaking Nahuatl.
And I'm making this one sci-fi game, and part of it takes place in Japan. In fact, a good part of it does. And of course, I'm going to resort to the cultural iceberg, right? So you have the very tip of the iceberg at the top. So unless you're a t-shirted historian, about Japan, you basically know about like ramen shops, and you've seen anime, and maybe you know some things about the culture. But like below that is this massive, like 10-mile wide thing of culture that you don't know anything about, like how the Japanese people care for their kids, like like the deep cultural stuff. I'm perfectly fine leaving that out. I'm gonna go for the tip of the iceberg. It's a sci-fi cyberpunk kaiju game. It takes place in Osaka and Tokyo. Like, I can have signs that have Japanese, like I can have kanji on them. It's fine. And like, people were grilling me about that. I'm like, dude, it's Blade Runner. Just forget about it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, and it's like my current game I'm running, like I mentioned, it's kind of like a Dark Sun / Conan story. And a lot of the world is very much inspired by Mesopotamia and India, right? Because like the primary continent, the largest empire, which is now collapsed, is very much was inspired by India and Indians. with obviously my own take to it, because it progressed to the point where it hit like the Middle Ages, and then it reverted back to like the Bronze Age because of the catastrophe that took place, and what kind of turned the world into a desert. It's just kind of neat that you can have these things in a fantasy setting based off of non-European cultures, and that was like, I'm not gonna say my goal behind it, but I like the idea of, let's take something, it's fantasy, it's still but it's not the Middle Ages, it's a different time period, to whether something either didn't progress as far or it regressed because of a catastrophe.
India and Southeast Asia are relatively untapped in terms of fantasy worlds and things.
Yeah.
So it's there's a rich mine of folklore and stuff to be mined out there, I think.
The same thing with the Middle East. Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of Hispanics love that people take stuff from their culture. It's not like they get offended about it unless they're assholes from fucking Caltech or whatever. Seattle.
Poly.
It's like
kidding,
most
Poly.
Hispanics, like when they were mad that Speedy Gonzalez got like taken off or whatever, got canceled, because they thought that was a cult type of cultural icon, from what I understand. So it's certainly not a universal thing.
There's
the Frito Bandito.
Yeah.
I laugh at those.
There's a taco shop here in town that had Speedy Gonzalez as its mascot. Like they put it like up on the sign. It's like, well, first I was waiting for like Warner Brothers to have a problem with it, but no, they were all about it. Like they love the character. He's like, and he's like the biggest icon.
Hell yeah! Actually, it's kind of funny because I have a friend who lives in Seattle, and he's experimenting with Mexican cuisine, and it's kind of like, he keeps telling me, he's like, yeah, we don't have very good Mexican food up here, and he keeps sending me pictures, and I'm kind of like, that ain't right. That's not what Mexican food looks like, bud.
There's that story a while ago where that museum or gallery had people coming in and trying on kimonos, right? And loads of people kicked up a stink because that's not your culture. But the Japanese are really kind of happy
like, it's
so many weebs are still doing this stuff, because people in their own country aren't keeping these traditions alive anymore. They see it as old hat. So
I studied, Iaijutsu and Kenjutsu from a Japanese grandmaster. If they had any objection to, a foreigner studying their shit, then why did we have whole classrooms full of them?
Yeah. I mean, and they used to, right? Back in I would say like the 60s and 70s, when they started really introducing martial arts to America. Yeah, you did have some of the older masters who were like, yeah, this is not good, we don't want to teach the white man this crap. But now nobody fucking cares. It's like that. My Kempo instructor is a dude from Mexico. The guy who created Kempo is a Hawaiian Mormon. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, it just because he's not from the China or Japan or whatnot doesn't mean that he didn't have a mind for it, an eye for it. I mean, Ed Parker, man, and he's definitely, I would say, probably one of the greatest martial artists out there because of the system he developed. And it wasn't, meant to be a martial art or sport art. It was meant to be a self-defense art. And, throughout his life, he refined the system to be able to make sure that if you're in a situation where you're being attacked by multiple people, you have the ability to defend yourself.
Oh yeah. I like martial arts myself. I mean, I watch, you can ask these guys. I'm always, every Friday morning, I'm watching one on YouTube. So I'm watching Muay Thai matches and MMA matches and stuff like that, straight from, usually from, was it Lumpini Stadium over in Thailand. And those guys, I mean, shit, those guys don't play.
No, they don't. And I mean, the other thing too is it's I really like Chinese kung fu movies. I mean, they're fucking great.
Hell yeah.
Shaw Brothers.
Nobody got upset when when they taught Keanu Reeves kung fu for The Matrix. So
yeah, really good martial arts film called Shaolin, Chinese film. Great movie. I kind of watch a lot of the older
'80s stuff like that. I was a really big fan of Jet Li back in the day, and of course Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
That's why I'm excited about the last Kumite.
Yeah, me too.
Soon.
I haven't heard about that one.
That'll be fun. Jason Brandt from YouTube is making that, or he made it.
It's not a complete retro throwback, but they got like a lot of this music. They have new music from like the stuff from Bloodsport. You know, it's kind of a
Stan
throwback
Bush.
to the old like tournament fighter movies, which I love.
Same. I mean, come on, man. It's like, how many times have I said it on this show? It's like, you know, most of the stuff that I'm buying movie wise is old from the 80s, from the 70s, because, you know, that old cocaine fueled Hollywood was the best Hollywood.
It really was.
I mean, shit, man. Where else are you going to get something crazy? It's just like, you know, it's like what do you want us to show, man? How about we have a guy who's you know, him and his girlfriend get killed on Halloween night, and he comes back from the dead and he kills all the guys who, you know, killed him and his girlfriend. That's perfect, man. Put it up on the screen. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah, we got this comic book we can go and adapt.
Yeah.
The Crow. But yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah. Talk about cocaine infused movies, like something like Face Off. Oh yeah, or
God,
a movie where they switch faces.
we're gonna have John Travolta act like Nicolas Cage. We have Nicolas Cage act like John
Travolta. Brilliant! It will print its own money. Yeah, and we'll do this slow motion doves, as with all John Woo movies.
We'll have Nicolas Cage as a priest dry humping a woman.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that Schwarzenegger wasn't. He was candying up his nose pretty bad. There's no way he wasn't. Like, he admitted to doing all kinds of testosterone and drugs and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, those days are far behind us, unfortunately.
Sadly, what we've been left with is kids who, I don't know, either they don't have any life experience or they can only relate to their own experience and nobody else's, apparently.
Well, shit, they can't even handle Ricky Berwick.
Yeah, that was hilarious. They tried to cancel Ricky Berwick. I mean, what the fuck? It's like, you know, it's like, wow, why don't you do you kick puppies too?
What did he do?
He made a joke about I believe it was there's a new killer in Dead by Daylight, and it's an alien that takes over like the corpses of whatever it's encountered, and it can appear in a variety of different forms. So one of them is a girl, and it's all twisted and fucked up looking, right, wearing, you know, like women's clothing and everything. And he made an off color, like a transgender joke about it.
I thought the part you're forgetting in there is the voice actress for this. Trans themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
And apparently she wasn't very happy with what the final art looked like for the character, I guess.
Yeah.
You're voicing a killer. Like, you weren't exactly going to be a good guy here.
I think the better question is, what hasn't Ricky Berwick done?
Walked.
Wiped his own ass successfully.
Yeah, that dude's pretty funny.
He is funny. I love that guy.
He's a treasure.
He is.
National
hey,
treasure.
LDG. Good to see you, man.
What's up, LDG? How you doing?
Just random thought, because I mentioned Schwarzenegger earlier. My buddy Frank, who's my co-author, works at this video place, and they hired Schwarzenegger to come do a 10-minute inspirational speech to all the Zoomers that he works with.
Oh, God.
$300,000 is how much they had to pay. So, holy shit. He didn't even get to meet Schwarzenegger. Couldn't even shake hands with him or take a picture.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's like, damn. Well, shit, that's one of the reasons why I do this, because like this is about as close as I'm ever going to get to any actual celebrities. So, because I can't afford the conventions and shit. So
So what I've taken from this the last bit of the conversation is that we basically need to lock the Disney board in with like a couple of keys of the finest Bolivian marching powder, and that'll fix everything.
Well, I mean, it can't hurt, right? At the very least, it should be really interesting.
Yep.
I mean, hey, Maximum Overdrive. That was Stephen King directorial debut straight on cocaine. He'll even admit it.
Well, I think the Disney animators were probably more hard drinkers than they were into the other stuff. Most writers and artistic types typically are, from what I have seen.
From what I understand, Disney himself smoked cigarettes like crazy.
A big pipe.
Well, I think a lot of people in that time period did.
Cigar shop. You want like a pipe shop in Disney World.
Yeah.
I believe it.
It's a fucking duck, but nobody can understand what he's saying. He's got no pants.
They refused to serve alcohol in the Magic Kingdom for decades and decades. Only recently they finally broke it.
Is that right?
Gambling.
Yeah.
Is that where
they probably should have kept it that way.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, I mean, ESPN is going all in on the gambling stuff, the fantasy sports. They're going hardcore into all that because there's money to be had. And who are the executives to say like, it's crazy. They used to be all about the family stuff. The company did, and now it's about all the vices. Everything that we can do to like make a buck or win some arbitrary social media backpats.
Interesting bit of trivia I came across not too long ago, and it sort of tangentially relates to some of this stuff too. So back during the UFC's early days, Senator John McCain was really, really hardline against the UFC, and as it turns out, there were some ties with boxing and Budweiser involved. So even back then, it's like they had some idea that UFC was going to end up, dominating the sports world over boxing. He was pretty much in Budweiser's pocket.
Shocking.
No, it's so funny because and that loss was kind of like Japan's gain, because for that time period that UFC was struggling and trying to fight its way into the ratings and everything else, Pride over in Japan was throwing matches where you had 500-pound dudes fighting like little 5'8" to 150-pound Japanese dudes in the ring in a full contact MMA match, and I'm not even kidding. That was the day, man. I miss those old Pride matches. But I mean, it's so crazy what forms entertainment is gonna start taking and everything like that. The whole esports thing.
It's kind of devolving, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, are we actually going to start getting like actual blood sports involved? Like I'm talking like guys getting in there and they just like drop weapons in the pit and let them go at each other.
No, give it time, man. It'll happen.
Yeah, with the
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, with legislation.
We'll get back to the Thunderdome.
I mean, I honestly think we'll get there someday. I'll be gone by that point, but
you never know. It might happen sooner than you think.
You think?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
It's hard to say. It really is.
Yeah, we do. There have been a lot of changes. I mean, I'm 50, but in the short time I've been around, it's like 50 years. I've seen a lot of shit change from when I was a kid to now. I mean, I never would have thought I'd have heard people saying fuck on TV, but we do. So,
yep,
it is what it is.
I mean, that's the funny thing too, because it depends on what station it is, right? If it's like that, was it the 3-4 major stations? Not so much, but things like FX. I mean, that was like one of the things I was surprised about with Shogun was the nudity. It's like, and this is being aired. It's like I thought they're not allowed to do this shit.
I didn't think they were allowed to do nudity even on FX, but damn.
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, I was gonna watch Shogun anyway, but
yeah.
But now I definitely have to. But it's weekly, right?
Yes, we
So I haven't missed it all.
No. But you
Cool.
can probably catch it on streaming.
Oh yeah.
But gents, I do have to bounce. I do have a game I need to get ready for. So
All right.
Thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. It was great to have you, and I definitely want you back on, man.
Yeah, let me know.
So hit me up on the twits, and we'll see what we can do.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
And for everybody else out there, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be running Cities Without Number with our guest Grim. So I hope you'll catch you there. And of course, Tuesday is Tuesdays with Geeks, huh?
Well, it was my turn this weekend.
Well, I missed last turn in favor of your anniversary, but if you want to go, that's fine.
Right on.
No,
Again,
I mean,
nice meeting all of you guys.
Okay.
See you.
Yeah.
I can move my game. That would be good.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to do. There's a slight chance I may end up getting kidnapped to do yard duty anyway. So I don't know for certain.
Say no, I have a game.
You don't exactly, say no when it's yard duty. It's kind of like get your ass behind that lawnmower and go.
Then you mow exactly 1 yard, right? And then say done.
Yes, but this is Texas. Have you seen our yards?
You.
My yard is bigger than your whole town, Grim.
That's the genius of it.
So
Anyway.
mine is buried by snow again.
Yeah, you're not gonna be mowing shit. Anyway.
No, and then once it melts, it'll all turn into a swamp.
Well, anyway, catch us tomorrow one way or the other, and catch us on Tuesday where we will have the lovely Harmony back on, and with any luck, we'll have some other great guests on. But until then,
We'll see you.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams. Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.